for me, I think the biggest lesson that I wish I would have learned earlier was you're allowed to say no. But so when you choose and you pick and choose and you do the things that you specifically want, they become special and they carry more weight. And Lorne Michaels used to tell me, he said, how can we miss you if you won't go away?
Hello and welcome to Off Script with the Hollywood Reporter. I am your host, Yvonne Orji, here at the gorgeous Georgian Hotel in sunny Santa Monica, California. Okay, so according to Girl Math, there are roughly, about 500 million original dramas streaming right now. You can fact check me later, but these 6 actors you are about to hear from have starred in some of the best of them. From cowboys to torture detectives to fights with Jennifer Aniston. These actors have brains, is what I'm trying to tell you. So grab your popcorn, sit back, and prepare to be inspired by Matt Bomer of Fellow Travelers, Nicholas Galitzine of Mary and George and Red, White, and Royal Blue, Jon Hamm of Fargo and The Morning Show, Clive Owen of Monsieur Spade and A Murder at the End of the World, David Oyelowo of Lawmen, Reeves, and Callum Turner of Masters of the Air. They are on the record, but just a little off script with the Hollywood Reporter. Hey, Lacey, they're all yours.
Thanks, Yvonne. Welcome to the Drama Actor Roundtable. Thank you all for being here. We will start with a question for everyone, which is, what's the funniest or strangest feedback you've ever read or heard about yourselves?
I once auditioned for a director who, in the middle of the audition, said, "This isn't working."
Oh.
That was pretty bad.
What do you do in that moment?
You feel like your career is over. Thankfully, it wasn't there. Otherwise, I wouldn't be
Correct.
here.
But also, it turns out it was working. and it remains working.
Yes, that was pretty bad.
In a similar vein, I had a head of a television network tell my representatives actually that Jon Hamm will never be a television star.
You showed that.
Name
How wrong
names.
they were.
Name names.
He's no longer at the head of that network.
I know exactly who it is.
It was one of those things where I had auditioned for this person in this network over and over and over again, as one does, and for whatever reason, didn't get the part. I would always say it would come down to the last two, me and the guy who's going to get it. But it was one of those things, and it's such a. Steve Martin talks about it in his book, but it's like auditioning is the worst. It just stinks, but that's the only way we got. So, and there's so many variables that are completely out of your control. So the ability to kind of like let it go is an amazing point in one's career. And then, of course, that's when you don't ever have to audition again. So.
Yep.
I like auditioning.
I did too.
God bless you.
Really?
Do you?
God bless you.
Why?
I don't.
Because you get into the room and you get a feel of the director and then the people you're going to work with. And
But do you still do that now? Do they? Everything's on tape now,
audition
isn't
the other
it?
day for something. It was nice to go in and
That's
to
amazing.
play and there was a crossover. I think I hated auditioning, and then I realized that they want you to get the part. Like if you think that they don't want me to get the part, then you're going to feel like this is a negative experience. But if it's a positive experience, then
There is that
they're on your
realization when you kind of go, oh yeah, right. We're all here to do
they're
the
not going
same
to waste
thing.
their time with you for no reason.
For sure.
Going in is better than doing self-tapes, though, because I feel like over the COVID and all, there was a lot of self-taping. Whereas what you said, you getting the vibe of someone that you have the potential to work with is very different.
Especially for young actors, because I think when you're not yet at the point where you're actually getting to exercise that muscle on a set, it's a way to, put together a perform it in front of people who are professionals. You get a certain amount of feedback. I think it's the stuff around it. It's walking into a waiting room and seeing 10 versions of yourself.
There's no creative thing about it.
Yeah.
And it's
Going
often the
into someone's
same
office.
people that you've seen over and over.
Over and over again. And
Yeah.
sometimes you have that terrible setup whereby you can hear everyone. What I get is I think I'm gonna go in there and everyone's gonna be listening to me, and and it's all of the stuff around. It's then going home and the self-loathing and the anticipation and the did I get it, did I not, the waiting, all of that. It's the stuff around it that can be really challenging.
Sure.
That's post-date trauma, right?
Yeah, I think so. Which is what, and then that gets put into the experience itself. I just hate.
Yeah.
All right, if you think you're going to get away with not answering the question about about the funniest
Weirdest
or
feedback.
Yeah.
or funniest, or I mean, Anne Hathaway did just say that you could have chemistry with a lamp, which I guess
It's
could
true.
classify
It
here.
is true. I'm seeing a lot of vibes.
I saw
around
it
this.
earlier. The lamp was flickering.
Yeah, watch out. It's very potent. I mean, honestly, that was an amazing audition experience where I had a very conducive room, and it makes all the difference because you come out of it with this almost high, this sort of performance high, because the sort of anxiety and anticipation turns into something extremely, extremely positive. I mean, I do always. It's less feedback, but it was just more the sort of look of horror on casting director's face. But I went into audition for a young Tarzan with no lines, and I was told that I had to pretend that I had an orange that someone was trying to steal from me, and I had to guard it. And you know when you don't go for something entirely, and it just seems very feeble, empathetic, and wrong. That is a moment that keeps me awake at night. I think about it a lot.
So it was motivating. There you go.
You could say that.
But that chemistry thing is a real thing, because if you get to do chemistry reads, which is something I do love doing, because there's a kind of an excitement as to is this going to be the person I'm going to get to do this with? But when it doesn't work, when the chemistry isn't there, oh my Lord, because there's an alchemy to it. There's you can't quite put your finger on why something works or it doesn't, and you know within seconds.
And then you see these actresses again. Is that then awkward?
Yeah.
Like pause.
Well, it has. I mean, I'm thinking of one experience in particular that I'm not going to mention who it is, but it was so not the right fit. And you can feel it in the room palpably to a comedic degree, actually. And to the point where, you know, that coming up in Hives thing, I definitely have that over there.
Better to find out then than
For sure.
walk onto the
Week
set.
two, which is why you do it.
Looking back at your careers, is there a moment, a project that felt like the biggest risk for you?
I remember being at a time in my career where I just felt like I wasn't being challenged enough. Nick and I were talking just before this about theatre and that being a great place to be consistently terrified. And I do think that's something you need as an actor. And I went into my agency, I said this, and then the next thing that hit my doormat was a film called Nightingale, which was just me in a house, having killed my mother, and it was 80 pages with no one else. And that was as terrified as I've ever been, but it was like, careful what you wish for. And yeah, it was a risk, but it was definitely one that paid off. And I do think, you know, I can't speak for any of you guys, I do think that's where longevity lies as an actor, is how many times can you be terrified and do it anyway? Because I think that's where you continue to both challenge yourself and, of course, the audience.
Yeah, I think anytime you're tapped to be kind of number one on the call sheet for whatever it is, that brings with it a whole set of circumstances that are also out of your control, but that you're somehow expected to shoulder. And it can be a burden, it can be an opportunity, it can be all of those things at once. And so in my case, for Mad Men, when it came through, it was the show that nobody wanted. So it was stuck on a network that no one had heard of, that had never made series television before. So for the first 3 seasons, people thought we were on A&E, which is a completely different network than AMC. So there were so many challenges that were completely separate from making the show. Yep. We all knew that the show was good. We didn't know if anybody was ever going to see it. So those all get sort of folded into the equation, and yeah, it's very.
Did that show hit from the very beginning, like the first season?
Kind of. Like, people were very aware of it, but it was right at the beginning of internet blog culture and before social media, so there really wasn't that kind of worry about it. It was a very weird time in kind of the culture of television, too. People were really writing about recapping shows and writing about shows and really talking about them in a way that they hadn't done since the network shows, in a different way, too. So at some point, there was a study that was released. We never got ratings, but there was something called like cultural penetration that we ranked right below American Idol, but for the cultural penetration, about people talking about it. There was some metric that some advertising company came up with.
You're not allowed to use that term anymore.
Penetration?
Yeah.
So it's what David was saying about being scared. That's the fun part and the scary part of what we get to do. And constantly reinventing what you want or redefining what you want is exciting.
There's no way that you can't be scared either. You know,
Exactly.
It's such a vulnerable thing.
For sure.
Sometimes I've laid on my sofa instead of my ceiling and been like, what am I doing? You know, just before something's about to come out. And it's just real fear. It's crippling. But then, like you say, it's also the thing that pushes you on. It's the thing that makes you get back out there because it's thrilling.
It is.
I just don't want to be laughed at. That's my fear, really.
On purpose. What does it mean on purpose?
So that's the fear. It's interesting to actually be able to identify what the fear is.
Yeah, it's.
Can the rest of you, sort
I
of know
feel like
what
I don't
the
want to
fear
let
is?
folks down.
Yeah,
that's you.
So for me, I agree with both of you. It's every time you step on set, and your performance is going to be a part of the linchpin of what makes this story come through or not. I just feel that same thrill and excitement and hope that I've geared up enough and done all the work beforehand that I'm going to be able to step up and tell the story with my equals and just do my job and not drop the ball for anybody else, really.
Sure.
And it's also, I think, it doesn't matter how much you've done. Every time you go into a new thing, the potential to fail is hovering around. The potential to not actually do it as well as you hope you can, and is always there. It never goes away.
Clive, you did something early in your career. You were on a crime series. It was doing really well, and then you made a decision to take a role in a movie that I'm guessing is a decision you made because you didn't want to be stuck in a certain lane.
No, I mean, I think because I trained in the theatre, I got into acting because I wanted to play different parts, and I landed very young this big TV show called Chancer, which got a lot of heat, and then I started to get offered a lot of stuff like that. It was mainstream TV, and even at that very young age, I was very aware that I wanted a long career, but I also wanted a career that was as varied as possible. And then this writer-director came to me with this project called Close My Eyes, which was about an incestuous relationship with a brother and sister, very delicate, very beautifully written. Alan Rickman was in it, Saskia Reeves. And I remember at that time thinking, yeah, I need to do that because, I mean, ultimately, the worst that can happen, especially if you've worked for a while, the worst thing that can happen is you'll be bad. I've been bad before, I'll be bad again. It's like that's the only way to learn and to grow is to step out there and go, I'm going to give this a shot and I'll give it everything I can. And if it doesn't work, we pick ourselves up and we go again.
Does the team around you all say that's a great idea, or does that then feel
never
terrifying?
say anything. I have never listened to anybody else because ultimately you are the one that has to go to work every day. Right. You're the one that's got to, you have to, I've never listened to anybody else about you should do or I do what I want to do because that's what's going to sustain me through it.
I'm guessing this is resonant for you during the run on Mad Men, where
every script I got was a cigarette in a hat and a cocktail or something, and it was sure you go, okay, I get it. That's my day job. That's what I do 6 months out of the year, and that was why for me it was a very conscious decision to lean into the comedic side of stuff that I wanted to do, whether it was 30 Rock or SNL or fill in the blank, because I knew I had that going. That train had left the station very successfully, and so it was nice to have to earn credibility on both sides of the aisle, dramatic and comedic aisle. But yeah, to Clive's point, like agents and managers have all bat 1,000 in the rearview mirror. They can always tell you what they thought after the thing came out and was good or bad. It's in the moment that you have to make the decision. Well, and it is the worst thing that happens. You suck. Or it doesn't work, or whatever.
And
There's
also,
a million reasons.
I think appetite sustains you.
For
if
sure.
you want to do something, even like small, big, it doesn't matter. Appetite for something is what keeps an actor going. If you genuinely have the hunger to do it, you feel you've got something to do in it. I think that's hugely important always.
But sometimes it means waiting around for something that drives that hunger, or feeds that hunger, or speaks to that hunger, as opposed to just keeping on going from job to job to feed that hunger perennially.
What did that look like for you?
I mean, honestly, I feel like Fellow Travelers was that for me in a lot of ways because I've been with it like 4.5 years now. And I was very cynical about it even seeing the light of day. So it was one of those things that was slowly marinating on the back burner. I was going, oh, I really hope I get the chance to do that, but who knows?
To Matt's point about creating space for those things to come your way, my personality is I don't do well with waiting around. I also, there are, as a black person, there are stories that have never been told. There are stories that continue to have resistance to them being told. And so the only way to get them told is to be part of their creation. So Selma, for me, was a 7-year journey. A United Kingdom was a 7-year journey. This was an 8-year journey. And on each of those, it was in an environment within which the feedback was, this doesn't have a place in the marketplace. And so you basically, on Selma, I didn't realize what I was doing was producing by bringing Ava DuVernay on to direct it, by going to Oprah Winfrey and saying, please come and produce it, by badgering Pathé and saying, what are we doing, what are we doing, what are we doing? You know, but that's what a producer does. You literally move the needle a little bit every day towards the thing coming to fruition. And that's what it was with Bass Reeves as well. What happens is that in the meantime, the culture is shifting. Tastes are shifting, you know, so when we first went out with Bass Reeves, the feedback was, we're not doing this because no one's doing Westerns. We went out again 2 years later, we're not doing this because everyone's doing Westerns, was the refrain. But then Yellowstone comes along and there's this clearly very engaged audience. Streaming comes along, which didn't exist when we were first going out with Bass Reeves. So you now have data on the demographics of people who are engaging globally. You know, Bass Reeves was deemed to be something that wasn't global. When we made it, it went on to be the most watched show globally for Paramount Plus last year.
It's that received kind of wisdom that becomes the conventional wisdom, which is false.
Yes, and you have
Based
to
on
sort
nothing.
of,
Patently false.
it's what's behind the feedback. You get pretty good at going, oh, I see what you're actually saying. You know, with Selma, for instance, every director, the 5 directors who were on it in the 7 years that I was around the project, they were all being given about 20 to 30% less of a budget than the film required. That's the marketplace, or these gatekeepers basically saying it's of a certain value. And that value means that we don't see it as something that is going to reach a big audience.
And fire in your belly too.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And if you're a certain personality, that, you know, for me, every no is a cobblestone to a yes. I just don't, if it's something I really want to do, and to your point about representatives, at the end of the day, I think as an actor, you're a corporation, you're the CEO, and you have people who are there to enhance or aid your vision, but they cannot be the driver for it. And at the end of the day, I would much rather bet on myself than people who don't know what it is to put yourself out there in the way that we do.
Sure. Hollywood loves to sort of lock people in lanes. I'm curious sort of what those types of roles are that you just sort of look at this point and say, like, not again. I'm looking at you, Nick.
Yes, you are. I'm very candid about my career, and you know, it's interesting what you're saying about sort of not waiting. I think for me, everything had to sort of move the needle in the direction towards the artistry that I really wanted to make. And especially early on in my career, there was a lot of romantic leads. That being said, I have done a romantic lead recently with Anne Hathaway, and I really love the movie. I think it's a lot of fun. But, you know, coming to something like Mary and George, which was very unconventional in a sense, and was able to kind of flip that and was much more sort of homme fatale in a way. And I think that's something now that I feel like I feel very fulfilled within the sort of romantic lead space, but I have much more agency now to be able to do these roles that I've not been able to do for the last however many years. Yeah. It isn't half help working with Julianne Moore. You know,
I'm sure not.
She radiates towards me, and that has opened a few doors in itself. Yeah.
What about the rest of you? What are the things that you're like, no, I've done this, and I really want to stretch and do something else?
Right now, anything set between 1930 and 1955, I think
is off the table.
Is off the table.
We've done that.
I
Check
like
that
to come
box.
back to it, but not for a bit. Yeah.
Is that something you've worked in the past as well? Or is this much more with Masters?
I did Fantastic Beasts, which is set in the 30s, and then Masters set in the 40s, and then Boys in the Boat was set in the 50s. So I'm looking for something set in the 60s.
What do you think it is? What is it about?
I think it's my hair, man. I just think I've got to shave it. I don't know. Masters was a gift. It really was. I was working with all those people, and if the situation was the same, I'd go and do it. It was an epic thing to be a part of.
Yeah.
What about you, Matt?
I think I needed to just come out from under the cloud of repression with certain characters between Maestro and Fellow Travelers and some other roles I'd done. I feel so blessed, honestly, to have an opportunity to play some of the more nuanced LGBTQ roles at this point, and they are so diverse in how they're written and how they're brought to the screen. So I'm very grateful for those opportunities, but I needed to, if I was going to go in that direction, I needed to play somebody who was a little bit more celebratory of themselves.
Yeah.
It's also director, I think.
Yeah.
Like if Martin Scorsese goes, right, we've got a film.
Would you play your
I'm in.
Not doing 40s.
Yeah, sorry, Martin. Put my foot down. No, I mean, it's got to be director. And actually, to your question earlier about how do you keep it fresh and how do you keep it moving, it's director, because the director is the person, he or she is going to pick the best HODs and the best actors and have the best chance of the film being seen and it being a good movie. So.
What is the stage direction, or perhaps it's a character description, that you see on the page and you just sort of dread?
Oh, I mean, well, this is not the stage direction. This is the direction.
Okay.
And when a director says to me, faster, I just...
Or 20% fast.
Yeah, and it's that phrase.
Percentage. We love a good percentage.
A little fast. And it's not that sometimes that's warranted to get some pace in there. But it's the emotional intelligence to know how to speak to an actor in order for that to come from a place of truth, as opposed to it just being purely a technical like, we're going to keep this thing move. And I find more directors than should be the case do not know how to unlock actors into a space of the elevation of the material. And the moment you feel like what you're doing is purely a technical endeavor, it shuts things down. And to your point about director, the best directors who get the best performances out of actors, it's because there's a degree of emotional intelligence, not only pertaining to actors generally, but specific actors. Like there's an actor who, second take, they tend to be dialed in. Another actor is like the fourth take, and you're now trying to get these two actors to the same place at the same time if it's a two-shot. Those are the best directors, and I've been so blessed to be around some of those. But that's a tell for me. When after one take, like we're barely warming up, just a bit faster. I'm like, whoa, okay.
Well, especially in television too, because it moves the pace of the production is so impossibly fast.
Right.
And especially working with Taylor Sheridan's crowd, it moves at a breakneck pace.
Right.
By design, but also it's just so you kind of have to come in warmed up in a lot of ways. Or because you just simply don't have time, you're not going to make your days. And you have directors often who are coming into a fully functioning machine and throwing a giant wrench into it because they don't know how it works or who's to be paid attention to.
But that's my point, John, is that once it feels like a machine, it's very anti-creative to me. Like if it feels like we're directing traffic rather than creating art, and I know that can feel lofty, but it doesn't actually take more time to do that. It's not inefficient to be thoughtful about how you approach the work, and so that to me is the thing that you're all because.
And what is that? How do you eliminate that? Is that being specific? Is it being?
It's tough, is the reality, but you know it, and you see it in the work when it's good, and I think vice versa as well.
See, to your question, though, the only stage directions Shakespeare gives are he enters or she enters and she exits. And I think he knew what he was doing. So anything that's not essential to the scene, I try to just black out with a Sharpie because there's so many descriptive things that are unactable or not useful or even good to have in your head at the time.
Sure, but there's also can be things like you're going to be in the dead of winter and you're going to have.
Well, those are given circumstances, not a stage direction.
That's true. Or
Actually,
character
that's
descriptions.
really interesting, and that's what I love about acting is that everyone approaches it differently. I look at the stage direction,
Yeah.
and I'm like, why has the writer written that?
Well, yeah,
Like, what does that mean? What is that? And I try to dissect it and understand it, and maybe I don't listen to it in the end, but it'll be in there for a reason. I think, the writer is. I mean, it's the script is the script. Right?
Yeah.
I was going to ask about your prosthetic nipples, but I guess I'm not going to ask about your prosthetic nipples.
We all have them, right? We all have prosthetic nipples.
What's the nipple story?
On Fargo, my character had pierced nipples, so the question was that
It's called commitment.
I answered everything. No, they were not actually. My nipples were not pierced. They were prosthetic nipples that were placed over my nipples that were pierced, which I did not keep because they looked way too much like pepperoni.
Last of your nipple before you.
Was that even a question? Did somebody ask if you wanted to keep those?
Yes. And I said, no.
I think I'm good.
I saw them in that
On eBay?
Hollywood auction.
No
Have
doubt.
them on right now.
Yeah.
Big bid for them.
Yeah, you can say you bought them, Clive. It's fine. But to that's another thing too. Is that what Callum's saying? It's like the writers have put a lot of thought into these scripts, and in that case, Noah's, and we'd spoken about it before it even became a script, but we talked about the character, and it was like he wanted him to have this kind of strange, buried, not immediately visible edge, different side. And I was like, yeah, that sounds great. Do whatever you want. And then he wrote that in us. Okay.
Be careful what you wish
and then
for.
you're in a hot
again.
tub in Calgary,
Naked.
with plastic things over your nipples.
Well, does anyone else have an equivalent of being naked in a hot tub with plastic nipples in your careers?
I spent most of Mary and George butt naked, to be honest. I did 4 sex scenes in one day, and you're just like, you're meeting people. Hello, nice. We're going to be in this position now.
Porn?
Yeah, sorry, I'm actually talking about my porn projects. That's what we're all here for. Right? Okay. But something like that's really bizarre. And for me, I kind of love those scenes because you really learn who George is in those moments, how he dominates people. It's how he manipulates people. So I'd say I actually weirdly feel more comfortable seeing a sex scene in stage direction than maybe something like and he cries. You know, for me that's always a thing of feeling like single tear. Like at this point in the script,
Or he is dashingly handsome. Or
all the time. Yeah, exactly. But
I'll never get tired of that.
you like that one?
Does everyone else feel the same way on the intimacy scenes?
It is. I mean, to me, it depends on how integral it is to the storytelling. If the characters and the story is different after the scene than it was before, I think that's for me a good barometer of whether or not it's essential to the story.
And it's also gotten so much more adult.
Yeah.
Meaning the idea of actually putting a person whose job it is to oversee that and make sure everybody is okay. Is a little bit like, how did we not think of this before? Like, how is... It was just not, it was an afterthought. And you go, there's so many things that can go wrong or sideways or uncomfortable in many, many ways, which we've obviously heard and read about over the course of most of our careers. But all it took was just like, let's hire somebody whose job it is to make sure everybody's cool.
Make it a dance.
And and then we can have a conversation about it, an honest and adult and responsible conversation, and we can, and the work is not suffering. It's
No, weirdly, you can actually push it more.
Yeah, because everybody's on the same page. Yeah.
But also there's safety, there's trust. There's not that thing where, is anything I do going to be misconstrued as inappropriate? You know, the parameters are set.
Board.
And you're right. How it's taken this long to have intimacy coordinators.
It seems like a no-brainer.
It's 100%.
We've had
Well, and if it-
stunt coordinators forever.
If it's good writing, it's also an extension of the scene. It's a conversation between the characters. And if you look at something like Fellow Travelers, which is really a study in repression, the way Johnny and I's characters were able to connect were in those intimacy scenes. It was the one time that we were free from all the societal judgments and restrictions and could actually express ourselves. So in projects like that, those scenes become really integral to the storytelling.
Yeah. Are there, I mean, a lot of these projects take you to these sort of dark places. Do you have tricks to sort of get yourself out of it at the end of the day? If in fact you are getting out of it at the end of the day, and I'm going to call you out. Did I hear you say Emily in Paris was, and maybe some Mean Girls was key?
I like all kind of movies. I'm very supportive of the film industry.
But those
I like watching those films because Mean Girls is a classic, and Emily in Paris is phenomenal. I say it in jest, but I also watch them. They're really good. I have a dog, actually, and my dog comes with me to work. And something I mastered actually was really grueling and draining, and he really helped me a lot. Yeah, just staying at the hotel and going for a walk on the grounds with him, and as a gateway back into I don't want to say myself, but that is
real
the
life.
thing. Yeah, real life, and having something that was normal.
And you stayed in the accent. Am I right on that?
Yeah, the whole time. Yeah. It helps me, it really helps me just find the person. I do it for everything I do. I did a movie called Tramps, and I went a month earlier to live in Greenpoint in New York, which is now a trendy neighborhood. But it wasn't a trendy neighborhood. And they were like, come live in Manhattan. I said, no, the character's from Greenpoint, and he's Polish, and I'll go and eat as many pierogies as possible. Hopefully through osmosis, it will come into me somehow, and I don't know, that's just my process. I enjoy that. That's part of it. That's part of the game, It's about, it's like you're a detective of some sort, and you're going in, if you're lucky enough to go into another subculture, I think then why not? Go for it,
Yeah, and what you put in is what you get out of it. I think a few of us who are Brits here, especially if you're playing an American, it is about immersion. I found that very useful to stay in the accent the whole time, because even for being on set, going in and out of your accent, even the people who are behind the camera are going, oh, he's not, oh, you want to eliminate that. You sort of want to just feel like, of course, there's just a synergy, there is a smoothness to what your day is. You're not having to now trick yourself into tricking them while you're also speaking to the audience. Whatever that is for you is the thing and everyone is different. Like, I had the really deep good fortune to work with both Forrest Whitaker on Last King of Scotland, and then Daniel Day-Lewis in Lincoln, and they stayed the whole time, and you kind of got to see what the price is for playing that kind of role.
The Last King of Scotland, that is a tough role just to stay in.
On everyone, by the way.
Right.
Playing a Ugandan dictator, but that's the price.
Yep.
And you see it in the results.
He's phenomenal in that movie.
He is.
Because it's a transmission of energy. Ultimately that's how I view it. And, the camera picks up the energy. The camera, you can't lie in front of the camera. So whatever you can do to enable that or enhance that.
Callum and Nick are at sort of earlier in their trajectories than the four of you. I'm hoping you can give sort of advice that would have been helpful to you at their stage. Whether it's how to sort of navigate success, whether it's how to navigate fame, things that you perhaps would have benefited from knowing when you were at the stages of their careers that they are.
I suppose something that I learned very early on was that, the film, the cliche that when you're filming, you spend, an awful lot of time hanging around and in the trailer and those. It's all about like the concentration needed for that time, the timing of your day, the timing of your energy. That I for like 20 years eat the same thing. Like I don't see when I'm working, like I don't want interesting, good food. And I'm a foodie, I like it, but not when I'm working. It needs to be practical, simple. I sleep every lunchtime, and it's all about the delivering when's needed, the pacing, and that goes when you go from movies to TV, the length of a TV show, pacing's everything about how you keep your energy good, and also remembering when you're young and there's a lot of attention comes, right? You're being pulled in every direction. One thing I loathe is when I'm working on something and you're pulled to do press for something else, because I go, this is what I do. This is the most important thing now. And that little bit of time in front of the camera on whatever job you're doing every day that is what sustains you and will keep, that's the most, and it's so easy. I think when you're young, and there's a lot of it, and it's very exciting, and you'll be important in all kinds of
And you have the
wonderful
energy at that
things.
age to do it
and you
all.
have the energy.
Yeah.
But it's to go, if you want to be in it for the long haul, you must never forget that precious little time, the way you use your energy and the way you pace yourself is really important.
You may have another piece of advice, because Callum's name is all of a sudden thrust into all of these sort of rumor mills around Bond, which is something that you spent a good portion of your career.
There are worse things to be talked about than possibly being James Bond. That's what I'll say. You could be called bad actor.
That one's pretty high. You could handle that one. Fair enough. John, what about you? Do you have? I mean, in terms of sort of how to navigate that moment where you feel weightless and there is all of that.
Nobody writes that book, right? Nobody
No.
teaches that class, and
So
it's
you will
something you
now.
kind of have to do. You can only do it through living through it.
Yeah.
You can only see it from the inside out. And for me, I think the biggest lesson that I wish I would have learned earlier was you're allowed to say no. Yeah. At a certain point, as Clive was saying, you're getting pulled in all these directions. Okay, I'll go over there, and I'll go over here, and I'll go over here, and you're kind of like, you can say no, and then everything slows down, and you can go, okay, let's do that and that. We don't have to do all 7 of the things. Yep. But so when you choose and you pick and choose and you do the things that you specifically want, they become special, and they carry more weight. And Lorne Michaels used to tell me, he said, how can we miss you if you won't go away? You know what I mean? And that's a big thing about, like, you can say no, and it's helpful too.
Matt, we were talking earlier about sort of being an industry sort of wanting to keep you in the lane. I feel like I've read recently that you were talking about returning to White Collar, a character that you did play for, I don't remember, 6 years, is that right? Do you have hesitations around returning to something, or do you have enough distance from something where that suddenly feels exciting again? I guess, what's that mental calculation?
I think a lot of that is just about the joy of getting to work with that cast again. We were all so close-knit. We're all still close friends. We text at least once a week with each other. We go to dinner all together as a group once a year. And there was just something where, when you get a fun job like that and everybody can appreciate it, they're at a point in their career where they've been around enough and had enough people tell them no, or you're not going to be this, or you'll never be that. And then you get an opportunity like that. We all just were really grateful for the experience, and we've been through a lot. We've been through a lot of loss together. So it's almost the experience of just getting to create with those people again would be the most appealing thing to me.
If somebody went to you and said, hey, there's going to be another Mad Men, is that...
Part of it is that there's no story to tell. We ran out of story.
Never stopped Hollywood.
Well, no,
But a lot of money, John.
It's literally never stopped anyone from making a sequel of a part.
Prequel, sequel,
Correct.
threequel,
I
squeakquel.
think it's coming.
No, it's obviously you never say never.
Of course,
But
of course.
the point of it is the way we were able to tell that story and how you turn the final page of the book and then you're done. That felt satisfying to me, and I think it was very satisfying to the audience as well. So I think that's a story well told.
So 3 million a net? No?
Keep going. There's got to be a number.
Ryan Hardball.
Who you been talking to? So I think that there's obviously it would have to be some version of what Matt was saying. Obviously, getting that over the course of, and we shot that show for the better part of a decade. A lot of us became incredibly close, really good friends. We all went through the fire together over the course of those 10 years, and that's in and of itself an amazing memory. So you want to kind of keep that as something that you look back on with fondness and kindness and wonder. And then if you kind of reboot it, does it become something different? Is that bad? Is that good? We don't know. So I don't know. I think I'm happy with the way that lives in my life and in my past, and I would love it to stay there.
Are there projects that you feel like, or types of projects or roles that you feel like even at this stage or just at this stage, you wouldn't be entrusted with? I feel like I've heard you say you would love to do some voice work.
Oh, I would love to do so. It was, we were talking before about how we tune out. I mean, animated work for me is just it's such a joy. It's the thing that I watch at the end of the day that does not feel like work at all. And
What are you watching?
oh my god, just so much. I mean, literally from Mulan, it's my favorite. Shrek 2 actually is probably my favorite animated movie. To anime, to Love, Death and Robots on Netflix, I think is amazing. But you know, Robert Pattinson's someone who I find really interesting because we grew up in similar areas, and he kind of had a similar trajectory in the sense that he was doing something that was very romance to begin with, and now he's become this incredible leading man, but character actor too. And him being able to be given that chance in The Boy and the Heron and completely transform, not a role, had it been a live action thing, well, because he can't play a heron, I suppose, in live action. But you get my point. You're able to kind of just really deviate from all of the preconceptions about you, and I think that is something that I find very fascinating and exciting.
Right now, in what we do, the opportunities are insane.
Yeah.
It's not even from 10 years ago. It's not that you if you're in the Marvel universe, then you have to do this, and that, and then you're going to do those movies for the rest of your life. Now it's you can do this and that, and you can be on TV or a streamer or a movie or a major motion picture or a tiny motion picture. It's all so fluid at this point that it's exciting, and it's amazing, as we've all been kind of talking about, with the ability to do different things. It's never been more. I mean, you could do something on fucking TikTok for all I know. I'm not on TikTok, but I hear you can, and it's just as differently creatively fulfilling. Culturally penetrative, if one might say. But it's definitely people will see it, and there's so many different ways to get. I hate this word, but your content into the hands of people who consume that content, and that's tremendously exciting. And I don't think we've landed on what the future is going to look like at all. I think that there's going to be some major upheavals and shifts in that landscape for the next few years, at least, with the advent of AI and what that's going to make everything look like. I'm always positive about the future. It's going to be something fun. People said that, television was going to keep the movies. It didn't. It made them better. And I think cable was going to kill television. Everything. It's radio killed stage. None of it was true. It's all just a different way to process this. And generationally, we find that you just learn how to do it differently. And it's exciting. It's exciting to get to do what we do. And I'm looking forward to seeing what it looks like in 10, 15, 20 years down the line.
I love it. We're going to go to a more of a lightning round. Who's ever lied to get a job?
Oh, absolutely.
Everyone on the planet.
Absolutely figure skate. I play ice hockey.
But that's dangerous.
Yeah,
That's
rollerblade. Like, we got this. Like, yes, years of experience.
Clive, what's been your lie?
Horse riding.
Oh.
When I was very young.
That's awkward.
Yeah, a couple of times. And nightmare experience. Absolute nightmare. And then eventually I got offered King Arthur, and the day the deal was done, I made a call and said, I need to get on the horse tomorrow.
This proper riding, that's like no joke. You're not just walking into shot.
I did a job where I got thrown off, and then I ended up in this big pilot, and I went over to the States, and this is a true story, and the Wranglers were there.
Oh boy.
And these horses were, and there was a scene where I was supposed to ride into this scene. It was a Civil War thing. And I promise you, this is true. Jump on the horse, I turn, and I go.
Oh my God, this is good comedy.
And glad it was. So that was my horse riding.
I had to audition for a movie called Miracle, which was about the 1980 U.S. hockey team, and I love ice hockey. Cannot play ice hockey, however, which is a very specific skill set. I can skate a little bit. I can go forwards and backwards. I can turn. Can't really stop, but who needs that? That's what the boards are for. So I went to audition for this thing, and it was absolutely humiliating. It's a similar thing. I was just like, I should not be out here on this ice, and I really wish I could go home. And it was like a 2-hour drive somewhere way out in the valley to some ice rink, and I literally was just like, we're good. I've learned now that I should take that one off my resume.
Good idea.
Yeah. And the movie ended up being great. One of my favorite sports movies of all time.
And you're not in it.
And I'm not in it. Nor should I.
I mean, mine's more physical things like being able to grow facial hair and look older than I am. Like, yeah, I'll come in with a beard. Yeah. I'll definitely look like 34 when I come in, not a 20-year-old prepubescent young man. But I'm still waiting for that. I mean, see some lovely facial hair over here.
There you go.
It's coming for you.
I'm with you, man. I'm with you.
You're with me.
I can't grow it, and I wish I could. I wish I
working
could.
Mine was kind of a mistake. I'm a pretty good roller skater, but then I had to rollerblade in something, and it's not
Very different
a
skill.
transferable
No.
skill. So I was just like, yeah, of course I can rollerblade. I've been roller skating for years, and it is very
Wildly different.
so that was pretty here. I learnt the wrong way.
I do like that you classified that as a mistake.
Yes.
And
not strictly speaking a lie.
exactly. What's the last piece of acting that made you insanely jealous?
Oh, wow. Sandra Hüller.
Oh yeah.
I mean, those
In
two
which film?
performances.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing.
Yeah, crazy.
I saw her in Anatomy of a Fall, and then it was deep into the film before I knew it was the same actress in Zone of Interest, and I just thought, that is as good as it gets.
Yeah.
That's quite a year.
I think Carey Mulligan's close-up work in Maestro was unbelievable. I mean, especially in that aspect ratio that they were shooting in, the camera's right here, and to see the truth in the character behind her eyes in those moments on a giant screen was really revelatory.
I thought what Emma Stone did in Poor Things was pretty impressive too. Just the physicality of it. Everybody in that movie was outstanding. But there was such a risky, that could have gone left
At any point.
at any point, and the way that she was able to really wrangle that into something consistently inconsistent or consistently chaotic was really impressive. And
Yeah, it was bold, wasn't
bold.
it?
And I've known Emma forever, and it's been an amazing thing to watch her kind of really sort of take charge of this thing and become that. She's just a wisp of a thing, but she projects such a gravity on screen. It's impressive, and it's so confident to see.
You also get the feeling she can go anywhere. She's created a space for herself now where it's all there for her because she can do anything.
That movie is a perfect example. It's heartbreaking, and it's wildly funny, and it's sexy, and it's all of the things at once.
Testament to Yorgos too, because everyone's in the same movie.
Yeah, for sure.
Is there a dream role for all of you guys? Is there something you would love to do?
I mean, I would love to do more action. I'd love to do, I think Born Identity has become, for actors, but where you get to an intelligent
They're doing it now. They're
thriller
remaking
action,
it. Could be yours.
Well, listen, you heard it here first. But, that kind of film that also has a brain is something I would love the opportunity to do,
Yeah. How about you, Nick?
I'd love to. I mean, I know Andrew Scott's just done it, but I'd love to play a Ripley-esque character. I think someone who's so Machiavellian and calculating and dark. I think steering into the darkness is definitely something I want to do.
I love that. Yeah. What about you, Callum?
I don't really do theatre, and I really want to play Stanley Kowalski.
Yeah. Oh, you'd be amazing.
Thank you very much.
Are you saying you'd like to do it as a play?
Not as a play,
Right.
Yeah, I saw Ben Foster do it a few years ago, and he was amazing. He really blew me away, and I know Joe Edgerton did it brilliantly, and obviously more.
I'd go and see that.
Yeah, for sure. No, you don't have to comp, but I'll pay.
I'd like to be comped.
Done. No, I just think that's such a beautiful play, and it's really a daunting idea to go and do a play for me, because actually it's film. Film was the thing that really excited me at the beginning, and theatre was something I like to go to, but not to be on the stage. So
I'd love to be back on stage again as well. I think that's always the most thrilling challenge as an actor. I'm getting to do my first kind of overt comedy right now, which has been really challenging, but also really liberating and such a joyful experience. So that's been a fun muscle to try to exercise for sure.
Sure.
I just did one of the highlights of my kind of dream job in playing Sam Spade, really. Because I've always been a huge fan of noir. I'm a massive Bogart fan. many years ago, I worked with a studio to try and get Marlowe. They got the rights for me to do Marlowe, and we never really got a script that was, good enough, really. And then when Scott Frank called up and said, "I want to play Sam Spade," I literally was sitting with, and it's true, behind me, an original Maltese Falcon poster on the wall. Wow. And I sent it and went, "You've come to the right guy.
Wow.
This is a gift." So that was a highlight just to get to do that. Yeah.
Right.
I have, Tom Stoppard is one of my favorite living writers, and he wrote a play called Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead. And they made a movie of it, which he directed, which Tim Roth and Gary Oldman were phenomenal in. It was a very, very fun movie, and I directed or co-directed a production of it in high school when I was teaching high school. A bunch of kids came out. I love it. It's funny. It's fast-paced. It's wickedly intelligent, and it's a two-hander. And my dream of it would be to do it with somebody who would go along with this with me, where we would switch parts every night. So that would be the fun part.
I think I could fit it in there.
Let me finish. So it would be that kind of thing, and getting back to what we were talking about things that are terrifying or scary to us. That would be fun. Again, fully terrifying.
Have you actually tried to?
I talked with the producer about it a long time ago. Someone else owns the rights to it at the moment. They're trying to maybe put it up. I'm not sure. It's one of those things that I could play tomorrow, or I could play in 10 years. It doesn't necessarily have to be a certain age or a certain this or a certain that. But it would be fun. And I just love the language in that play is. My friend said once, to be able to do something on Broadway for an extended period of time, you better love what you're fucking saying.
Oh yeah.
Because it's a slog, and those kinds of words I would love to say every night.
I'm going to end on what will seem like a silly, crazy question, but I do think it's revealing. Or, well, I guess you guys can be the judges. What's the most used emoji on your phone?
I don't use it.
Oh, well, then you
the
don't.
youngest. Oh God, it's probably the little winky.
Wink.
Yeah.
Mine's
Don't-
either,
don't-
mine's
don't
either
wink.
the Groucho glasses guy or the salute guy, because that's usually how I sign off, is with a little salute. And I lean on that Groucho glasses
It's
guy.
very
though.
Top Gun Maverick.
Groucho glasses a lot.
Does this say something
It
about you?
does.
Because mine is that one.
But it does say
You
something.
kids.
Yeah, that's the full kids. Yeah.
What about you, Matt?
I do Mind Blown a lot. I do Groucho
Wait, what's
quite a
the
bit.
Mind Blown is the one,
Mind
the
Blown,
exclusive.
and then
okay.
I use hearts a lot, different color hearts for different things.
It's the different colored heart. You have to be careful about that. I sent the wrong color to the
Wait,
wrong
what's
person.
the
were
right color?
judged?
What's the wrong
Well,
color?
if you send the red heart
Yeah.
to someone, that's a lot of
Romantic.
love. And it was an actor whose work I really love, but
a
I
red
could
heart.
tell by
No.
the silence afterwards that I had used.
You had
heart.
overstepped.
Yeah.
Should have
It should have
been
been
a purple.
brown,
Okay.
purple.
Maybe that was a bit of an overstep.
Yeah.
that one.
22 red hearts.
I had bared my soul a bit too much, I think.
What about you, Callum?
Yeah, our hearts as well. Yeah. I
Red
don't
heart.
really- I
Well,
don't
are they
really
red now? Now I'm out.
Red. I don't really use emojis actually. I like stickers.
You like
On WhatsApp.
stickers?
Look at you.
You like stickers?
It's generational. Good for you.
Yeah, it's well, I think it's a South American thing. Really, they love the stickers.
What are they? What kind of stickers
it's
are
like
you using?
photos of things that are like the.
So what's the most used one on your phone?
I've got one that I'm using at the moment. It's someone holding the photo. Is someone holding the thing in the car. Like, hold on tight.
Oh, okay.
That's
The oh shit handle. we used
yeah,
to call that.
exactly.
Hold on tight. That's a good
I told you they do actually reveal something, and you're gonna have to start using emojis and learn about yourself.
Or not.
Or not. Thank you guys so much for doing this. I really appreciate it.
great pleasure.
Should we cheers to the
Sure.
Chin chin.
Cheers.
to all these
Everyone's
plays that you'll be doing?
Cheers.
No pleasure.
Cheers, buddy. Madam.
Well, cheers to another insightful and enlightening roundtable conversation. Here you go, baby. I made you a drink. Just for you. As for my most used emoji, I don't know, it's got to be the brawn heart or the laughing face. Because, I'm all about that heart and humor and apparently alliteration. But until next time, I am Yvonne Orji, and this is Off Script with The Hollywood Reporter. Did you drink it? Is it good?